What's going on, everyone? My name is Santi here for Straight Shoot. Tonight we are reviewing SmackDown for August 12th, 2022, and we're going to start things off with a bang by talking about the amazing main event tonight that we had between Gunther, the Ring General, and Shinsuke Nakamura for the Intercontinental Championship. First off, wow. What a match. This really did feel like old school NXT black and gold, didn't it? Like something that we would get in some sort of crossover between NXT UK and NXT US. Man, I was smiles ear to ear for the entirety of this match. Was it a 5-star classic? It wasn't. But was it a match worthy of a "This is awesome" chant? Yes, I do believe that it was. And the audience believed that it was as well, because we had a first genuine "This is awesome" chant in quite a while, with the exception, of course, of the excellent Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus match. So "This is awesome" chants are becoming a little bit more of a regular affair here on Friday Night SmackDown. But yeah, this was an excellent way to elevate not just Shinsuke Nakamura, not just Gunther, but the Intercontinental title as a whole. The Intercontinental title matters now, and it's not necessarily just Gunther who is making it matter. It's Fox. The rumors out there is that Fox is not allowing the Intercontinental Championship to be defended on any platform that isn't run by Fox. So that means any premium live event that is on Peacock, you're not going to get the Intercontinental Championship. So there is your reason as to why the Intercontinental Championship hasn't been appearing on live events. But what it does mean is that we're likely going to continue to get barn burner matches like we did tonight between Shinsuke Nakamura and Walter. Some of the highlights, I keep calling him Walter, and I swear I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not some hipster WWE fan. Gunther. It's just second nature. It's just like a muscle reflex. Some of the highlights of the match between Gunther and Nakamura was the nasty knee to the chin on Gunther from Nakamura. When they played that in slow-mo, there's no way you can't sell that, because that looked like a very genuine knee to the chin. It's not something that I would like to personally take, let alone continuing to have a 10-15 minute match immediately after that. But that looked hella nasty. Of course, there was a chop, because there's always a nasty chop with Gunther that drove Nakamura to basically do a backwards moonsault. That was beautiful. And then there was, of course, I don't know what to call it, a double underarm hook suplex from an already elevated position, as Nakamura had the arm bar on Gunther, and he was able to counter that into a double arm snap suplex. It was just absolutely a work of beauty, and Gunther, of course, winning clean with the powerbomb. No interference from Ludwig Kaiser, and that's the way that it needed to be. There were some speculations that we were going to get a return here, potentially for somebody that is also an upper mid-carder like Gunther and Nakamura. Some people were throwing out the names of Johnny Gargano potentially making a run-in during this match or post-match. We didn't get that, and I'm okay. I'm okay that we didn't get that, because not everything needs to have a big return during the main event segment. I think this was a wonderful match that did not need any more bells and whistles. It just felt like a true strong style, hard-hitting match. And if this is what we're going to get from the Intercontinental Championship moving forward, even if it's not on premium live event, if it's on SmackDown, I'm all in, baby. Give me more. I'm going to give this match a 4 out of 5. That was fantastic. It's probably the only match that I'm going to rate on the show. I think maybe what I'm going to do is I'll rate main events rather than every single segment. But let's move on. And now let's start at the top of the show, as we started with the Women's Tag Team Tournament, where we had Raquel Gonzalez, Raquel Rodriguez, and Aaliyah going up against Shia Lee and Shotzi. We, of course, had Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez win this match. I think this was a fine match. It didn't over deliver, it didn't under deliver. It was exactly what it needed to be. I don't see either of these teams or the winner, really, Aaliyah and Raquel Rodriguez, winning or maybe even making it to the finals. But I do think that the right team went over in this scenario, as the WWE seems to be very, very high on Raquel Rodriguez, and so am I. She has been putting in the work day in and day out, and every week she seems to be getting better. So I do believe that the right team won here. Now, the next segment on SmackDown was a highly awaited segment. There was no physical confrontation, but we did see a very classic NXT Black and Gold promo from Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux. There was no physicality, but there was that eerie, dark, the clock is ticking atmosphere that made them get so over in NXT. And in the background, we did see that they were lurking and spying on Drew McIntyre, who of course then makes his entrance to go down to the ring and then gets interrupted and also distracted by Scarlett Bordeaux, who is just looking amazing. That entrance is just magnificent. Just wait until we get a proper full fallen prey entrance with Scarlett Bordeaux doing her witch dances behind Karrion Kross. It's just going to be amazing. It's just going to be absolutely phenomenal. But in this segment, I wasn't a huge fan of this segment because this segment really made Drew McIntyre look very weak. So we had him get distracted by Scarlett Bordeaux and then immediately get attacked from behind by the Usos and get absolutely manhandled by the Usos. So that's a little concerning. That's back-to-back in back-to-back week segments that Drew McIntyre has been third fiddle to Karrion Kross, even though it wasn't Karrion Kross this week, it was Scarlett Bordeaux, and the Bloodline without Roman Reigns this week. So I'm not loving the way that they're building Drew towards this main event at Clash in the Castle. That being said, if after Clash in the Castle it leads to a Karrion Kross and Drew McIntyre feud, take my money 3 times over. Absolutely. It looks like that's what they're leaning towards. I'm just not a big fan of how they are building Drew McIntyre here in the final weeks leading towards Clash in the Castle. Next, we had what was supposed to be the scheduled match of Ivar from the Viking Raiders going up against Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston came out like a badass during the Viking Raiders entrance and just beat the ever-living piss out of both of these guys with a kendo stick, only for them to then turn it around and then beat the ever-living piss out of Kofi Kingston. And now next week, it is being advertised that the Viking Raiders are hosting a Viking funeral for the New Day. So that'll be interesting. I don't really know what you could possibly do there because a Viking funeral involves a river and fire, which I don't know if they're going to have fire, and I sure as hell don't think that they're going to have a river. So we'll see a little bit more about that. The next segment is one I was very excited about immediately, because the moment that I saw Brandon Scott and Trevor Irvin in the ring, clearly local enhancement talent who was there to do the job for somebody, my first question is, who are they doing the job for? And out comes Hit Row with the Adonis, Top Dollar AJ Francis, as well as B-Fab. You may have noticed that they left out a fourth person who is a little bit busy playing tag team over in AEW. Former leader of Hit Row, Swerve, is of course no longer part of the group. But there's a couple of things that I want to talk about here. One, I love the fact that Hit Row is back. 2, not a big fan that they did it against local enhancement talent. I think it would have been great to have them have a segment with anybody from the main roster, maybe running in and having a match with a Jinder Mahal could have been interesting, but I don't think that that having them against local talent was the way to re-debut them. 3, the fans remembered them because they were cheering and they were over, and that is excellent. And 4, whether you guys took it as such, I personally think it was a little bit of a shot at Swerve because they took the mic and then they called themselves the OG3, completely ignoring the fact that they used to be 4. This brings some points of conversation as to whether or not some talent that left the WWE to go to AEW and are now stuck in AEW contracts are now kicking themselves. Yes, I am thinking of the likes of Swerve. I'm thinking of the likes of Keith Lee, Adam Cole, because they could be making far more money in the WWE. And now the mastermind behind getting them over on NXT Black and Gold is now the head of WWE Creative. These are the people that would be primed to take over the main roster over the next 10 years. And they made the decision to leave WWE, which they saw as a sinking ship, unfortunately, too early. And now we have other folks reaping the rewards that were more patient, that didn't jump into getting into an AEW contract or Impact or New Japan. And they're going to be reaping the rewards moving forward. The Adonis, Top Dollar, and B-Fab being 3 of the 4 of Hit Row that are now going to get monumentally over with the WWE universe. And Swerve, have fun in the AEW tag team division, my friend, because your homies in the WWE are going to be making top dollar without you. I like that. That was good. Anyways, Hit Row did win that match, but really excited to see them back. The next segment was one of my favorite segments of the night. We had Ronda Rousey come out just before the contract signing of Shayna Baszler and Liv Morgan for the WWE SmackDown Women's title match at Clash in the Castle. In that segment, there's a couple of things that I'm going to note. Ronda Rousey was over. The fans were loving Ronda Rousey, and so was I, my friends, because this heel badass Ronda Rousey is the Ronda Rousey that we needed. Face Ronda Rousey doesn't work. Heel Ronda Rousey absolutely monumentally does, my friends. And heel Ronda Rousey gets Santi straight shoot stamp of approval. She cut a great promo. She said, I don't care about the fines. You know what? Double it because I'm about to get fined again. As she pulls out a duffel bag of money and dumps it in the ring. That was wonderful. And then she gets escorted out by security, but not before she almost broke the arm of one of the female security guards. On her way out, there was a confrontation between Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, where Shayna Baszler was being weirdly face-ish against Ronda Rousey, saying, this is not how you do things here. You got to follow the rules. This is wrong, yada, yada, yada. And then Ronda Rousey just says to her, you used to be a killer, and then walks away. I love that. I love that because I'm hoping that that reawakens the killer in Shayna Baszler going into this buildup at Clash in the Castle. Nonetheless, let's talk about the actual contract signing between Shayna Baszler and Liv Morgan here, because it was also a really good segment. A couple of things that I'm going to note. Liv Morgan came out in an arm brace, and I think that they're going to keep selling this until the end of Kingdom Come, it seems. The audience is not over on Liv Morgan. Okay, when her entrance music hit, yes, there were some cheers, but when she opened her mouth and started cutting her promo, the audience started to chant, you tapped out, and there was a portion of the audience that was also booing. I think this is going to continue to crescendo into a potential Liv Morgan heel turn as she continues to get booked as this weakling that somehow continues to get away with victories, a la Daniel Bryan during his World Heavyweight title run, where he kept getting away with it from the Big Show and Mark Henry. It's also giving me New Day vibes when they were the happy-go-lucky faces that the audience just wanted to boo. And if this is what they're going to do with Liv Morgan, because I was complaining a few weeks ago, why are they booking her so weak? If that is the inevitable plan with Liv Morgan, to have this type of storytelling of this novice that has no business holding the title, who keeps getting away with it either through luck or maybe eventually cheating, fellas, I'm in. That's excellent. That's excellent long-term storytelling and booking, and I want to absolutely see it. I want Liv Morgan to win at Clash in the Castle in some, again, lucky, potentially underhanded manner, and I want to continue that. I want to see the continuation of this booking for Liv Morgan. Again, the weakling that keeps getting away with the title. I want to keep seeing that, and if that's the way that they're going to go with it, again, I'm all in. I'm attentive, and I want to see where this goes. Now, let's go on to the last segment of the night. Excuse me, not the last segment of the night. There's a couple of more segments, I guess I should say. This was the last match before the main event of the Intercontinental Championship match, and that was Drew McIntyre and Madcap Moss going up against the Usos. Drew McIntyre and Madcap Moss look strong here. The WWE is clearly over on Madcap Moss. So, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Madcap Moss, but I've got an open mind. He's got a great look about him. His ring attire, unfortunately, does make him look like a generic make-a-wrestler from WWE 2K or WWE SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. But the WWE is clearly high on Madcap Moss. So I'm going to keep my reservations about Madcap Moss to myself and put them to the side and see what they're able to build with Madcap Moss here, because putting him in this type of spot on the card with Drew McIntyre and the Usos, that's huge for Madcap Moss. Now, the match itself, it's a fun, hard-hitting match with Drew McIntyre and Madcap Moss getting the win. The biggest talking point from this match is going to be Sami Zayn's inclusion as a faux member of the Bloodline, an honorary Us, as they're calling him, as he continues to just do the bidding of the Usos, but still get no love and recognition for it. A lot of people are not liking this version of Sami Zayn. I like it. I think that this is actually a really good spot for Sami Zayn, to be perfectly honest, but that is my personal opinion. At the end of the match, Drew McIntyre was going to hit the Claymore on one of the Usos, and of course Sami Zayn came in, pushed him, and took the Claymore, and then McIntyre's face was priceless. A face of, you're not who I meant to hit, but I'm okay with hitting you with this Claymore, and it was wonderful. So this segment did its job, and it was a lot of fun. The last two segments that I'm going to be talking about is, excuse me, I'm going to talk about three, okay? First, this may have only been on Canadian television, but they were doing a hype package for next week's episode of SmackDown. And in that hype package, I don't know if it was on purpose. I don't know if it was an old hype package that Canadian network Sportsnet didn't know to take out. But that hype package started with Sasha Banks and Naomi. Again, I don't know if this was an accident. I don't know if it was an old package that they just haven't removed. But it's possible that Canadian network Sportsnet accidentally spoiled the return of Sasha Banks and Naomi at next week's SmackDown. We will see. Now, speaking of the women's tag team title division, we had the announcement that we are going to be having, not sure if this is considered a call-up, but we are getting Nikita Lyons and Zoe Starks getting a call-up to participate in the women's tag team title tournament. I am a big fan of Nikita Lyons as a man that likes women, but I'm a bigger fan of Zoe Starks as an in-ring worker. So it's a bit of an odd pairing, but I'm all in. And if they're going to do these, if this is a one-off, that's interesting. And I like the fact that they're putting NXT 2.0 talent in these marquee situations where they can get a little bit of notoriety and then go back to NXT. If this is a proper call-up, seems a little bit fast and a little bit rushed, and that concerns me. So I hope that this is a one-off and that this is not a full-fledged call-up, because I think that is far too quick, and I don't know what they would do with either of these women in the main roster as of now, because they're not going to be a tag team. Let's be honest. This is a tag team that just got put together as, hey, let's grab two of the most popular women over on NXT 2.0 and let's see how they do on the main roster, because this is not going to be a long-term tag team. Absolutely not. Now, I will finish it off with this. we had a segment, personally, a segment that I loved because I was laughing absolutely hysterically during the Maxim male model segment, as you have Mansois and Marseille doing a photo shoot, all glistened up, flexing for the cameras, and Maxime and Max Dupree are there, formerly LA Knight, and then Los Lotharos come out and not necessarily confront Maxim male models, but make a proposition and ask to be signed to their male model agency, to which Max Dupree says, "I'm sorry, you're just not what we're looking for." And then they say, "Friend, we weren't talking to you, we were talking to her." And then they point to Maxine, and of course she's smiling, she seems interested in signing Los Lotharios, but we had a little bit of dissension there with Max Dupree not being happy about it. Is this the potential, not necessarily the breakup of Maxim male models, but could this be the removal of Max Dupree from the stable now that Triple H is in charge, and the return of LA Knight? I would love to see that, but I'm not gonna lie, I really like what he's doing as Max Dupree. I don't know if I'm in the minority in saying this, but I would like to continue to see LA Knight as Max Dupree for a couple more months with this faction, because this faction, in my opinion, is comedy gold, and LA Knight, Max Dupree, whatever you want to call him, is killing it in this role. Talk about someone who was given a shit script during the Vince McMahon era and a shit gimmick, and turning it into something that is actually interesting and engaging. And I think it would be a little bit of a disservice to take this man's hard work to get this over and relevant, and then just say, yeah, you were better off as LA Knight, which he might be. I might be wrong here. He might be better off as LA Knight, but he's put in so much work to get this over and make this interesting that I think it would be a shame to see them walk away from having Max Dupree as part of Maxim male models, and then having the male models be part of Maxime, which would be not as interesting, if I'm being honest, if Max Dupree is not a part of the stable. I'm calling it now. If Max Dupree is removed from this stable and he returns to being LA Knight, Maxime's male model agency will die, and it won't last more than a couple weeks on television. Folks, that episode of SmackDown to me was excellent. I think that WWE weekly television continues to take monumental strides into becoming watchable. Okay, that is big, because it wasn't watchable for a really, really long time. Now, I'm excited that I get to review SmackDown, because if this is the type of quality television that we're going to be getting, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Now, keep in mind, Steve is going to be reviewing episodes of Monday Night Raw, so keep a lookout for his review of next week's Monday Night Raw. I've been Santi. This episode of SmackDown gets an 8.5 out of 10 this week. Cheers. Take care. Make sure to like and subscribe this video, and follow all of our social medias. If you want to follow us on TikTok, or if you want to follow me personally on twitch.tv/SantiZap, the link to that will be down in the description of this video. Thank you very much for watching this review, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.